In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about if you want to do business out in Asia, where is the best place to incorporate, to set up your company, to run your operations out of. So perhaps you've been living out here and you've continued to run your business through a company that is incorporated back in your home country. A lot of people do that, especially in the beginning, but there are opportunities to incorporate out here as well for different reasons. There is a lot of opportunity out here for business. There's also, as a lot of people know, a lot of great lifestyle benefits. So you can marry up those two things and get your business working for you while having a great lifestyle. But where do you incorporate if you want to do business in Asia? So that will come down to a number of factors depending on what you are exactly trying to achieve here. Some countries will tick certain boxes that may be important to you, others may not. So you've got to have a look at what is important to you, and then that will help you to make your decision. So the things we'll discuss here that I hope will help you to steer you in the right direction are you looking for a residency permit? Do you want to get off tourist visas and have something a bit more rock solid that will enable you to live out here and do your business, run your business at the same time? Are you looking for ease of business, an easy place to run your business out of with minimal red tape? This will be something that is attractive to people as well. Some will be looking for a solid reputational country, a country with a stable political system with a strong rule of law that may direct you in a certain direction, and others will just be looking for the lowest tax possible. So while you can satisfy a number of these things in certain countries, it's not always possible depending on which of these things is more important to you. So that's what we're going to discuss here. First of all, my name is Aaron. I'm from Offshore in Asia. So we help people to move, do business and invest out in Asia with a strong focus on Southeast Asia. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, head over to offshoreinasia.com and have a look around there. We have a lot of articles on our website in relation to many things, lifestyle things, business things, investing, all kinds of stuff about living out here. We also offer consulting. So if you want to have a one-on-one confidential call with us to discuss certain matters, you can do that on our website as well. And if you do want assistance with setting up your corporate structure in any of the places we're going to talk about here, or even any other places that we don't talk about here, we can help you to do that as well. We've got partners all throughout Asia and other parts of the world as well. Just because you're living or operating out of Asia doesn't mean you have to be incorporated in Asia. So what we do is help you to find the best option for you that works for you, your lifestyle, your business. But the first item we'll cover here for different considerations on where you may want to incorporate in Asia is, are you trying to get a residency permit? So this will be important for a lot of people. A lot of people, for example, people who live in Thailand have incorporated in Thailand because they want to get the work permit that comes with it so they can continue living and operating their business legally out of Thailand. So you can set up a Thai company as a foreigner. You do have to have 51% Thai ownership, so that means you would have to bring on a Thai shareholder, and then depending on the structure that you use, you'll often have to adhere to what they call the 4-1 rule, which means you have to employ 4 Thais for every 1 foreigner. So you would employ 4 Thais to employ 1 foreigner, which would be you. So that would get you out here, living and working in Thailand. There are some scenarios where the 4-1 rule isn't applicable, but for many people and many business structures, it is something you will have to be aware of. Another place that people are interested in getting a residency permit through business is Malaysia. We hear a lot about the MM2H programs, but another way of getting a residence permit, it's a temporary permit that can be extended, an ongoing work permit that allows you to live and work in the country, is by setting up a private company in Malaysia. So this is a Sendirian company, an SDN BHD company that you may have heard of or may have seen written on various signs if you've ever been to Malaysia. And as I said, this allows you to get a work permit to be employed, to employ yourself in your foreign-owned company in Malaysia. Another option that will get you a residency permit, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, is by setting up a Labuan company and getting the Labuan Director's Visa. There are a few strings attached to this one. It's not for everyone, but if you are eligible to do this, this will enable you to incorporate in Malaysia's offshore financial territory, which is Labuan, and you can get some very good tax benefits there. We'll talk about them later, but it also gets you the work permit to live and work out of Malaysia. Now, if you are looking for ease of business and minimal red tape, it's pretty hard to look past Hong Kong. Hong Kong is very well known for just being no hassles. There's low requirements for getting set up. It has a low admin burden to continue running. It's pretty cheap as well, perhaps more affordable than you might expect being an internationally renowned financial business center. So being very pro-business, internationally minded, low red tape, it makes for a very dynamic business environment in Hong Kong. This is a kind of place where you can go, you're not going to be hassled too much, you can just get up and running, pay your money and you're away. It's not the Wild West, but it certainly is a lot easier to do business here than in some other jurisdictions. And this is attractive to a lot of people, depending on what you're looking for. Now, Hong Kong isn't for everyone, of course, especially with political developments that have happened in the last few years. But if that doesn't concern you, if you perhaps are even looking to Hong Kong for different reasons, like access into China, if you just want somewhere to get up and running and have your company operating out of a new country in Asia that isn't your home country, then this can be a good option for you. When we're talking about international business centers and we're talking about alternatives to somewhere like Hong Kong, Singapore always comes up. So Singapore probably does have I wouldn't say it's ahead of the Hong Kong as far as international standing goes. Both Hong Kong and Singapore are both highly regarded. But a lot of people do prefer Singapore because, you know, it's not part of China. It also has a very stable political environment, a strong rule of law. It is respected internationally. It's not going to raise too many eyebrows when you're doing business over, trying to send money overseas and that sort of thing. It does have a pretty favorable tax rate, but it also does have a bit more red tape compared to somewhere like Hong Kong. There's a few more checks and balances here, maybe a couple more forms that you have to fill out, but it's certainly still not a deal breaker. One thing that does put people off about Singapore is that you do require a resident director. So if you're not living there yourself, that means you'll usually have to hire a nominee director to operate on behalf of your country in Singapore. You still can be a 100% foreign-owned business, being yourself, but you will have to have a director on the ground in Singapore who is a resident of Singapore, whereas that isn't required in Hong Kong. So there's a few things to consider there. All right, now for those who are purely looking for low taxation, there's a couple of options here. One that is quite good, but it doesn't work out for everyone due to the reasonably tight requirements for using this structure. That said, any kind of business can use this structure if you have the scale to make it worth your while. And this is Labuan that I mentioned before. So they're a financial services territory off the coast of Borneo in Malaysia. And if you incorporate here, you can pay just 3% tax on your earnings if you are running like an actively an operating company. If you were going to set up a holding company that was going to be the shareholder of a company elsewhere, you can pay potentially 0% tax. So this is good for some businesses, but it's not for everyone. There is a bit of a running cost. They have what they call substance requirements, which requires a minimum spend amount every year. It might be employing staff, it might be having an office in Labuan and things like that, depending on what kind of business you're trying to run. Now, moving up the scale a little bit from very low tax to quite low tax is Hong Kong. Now, they have an official corporate rate of 16.5%, but that's only on profits over around $256,000 US. So below that, the rate is cut in half to 8.25%. So if you're a small to medium business, you can earn your first 250 grand at 8.25%. That is if you are registered as a resident company in Hong Kong, which anyone can do basically. There is a thing in Hong Kong called the offshore exemption that you can apply for, and if you can satisfy this and get this ticked off on your company in Hong Kong, then you can pay 0% tax in Hong Kong if you have no actual operations in Hong Kong itself. Singapore has a similar taxation set up to Hong Kong in that they charge, the official rate is 17%, but if your earnings are below around $140,000 US, that will be cut in half to 8.5%. I've given you some of the main options here that people will consider when looking to incorporate in Asia. Of course, there are more options that we haven't gone into here, but these are some of the main ones. Some people still prefer to operate out of the US. They might have an LLC in the US, they might have a PTY LTD in Australia and run that while they're living in Asia. That's fine if that's what works for you. Another consideration is that just because you may have incorporated in a low tax jurisdiction doesn't mean necessarily that you have locked in that low tax rate. You have to consider Is your company going to trigger any permanent establishment issues, as they call it? That is basically means that because you are running an offshore company out of another country like Thailand or Malaysia, wherever it may be, that other country may want to tax you at their corporate rate because you are living there and you're running your operations from there. It has physical presence in that country. If you want to talk to someone about what some of the best options might be for you, whether you want to do a consult call, if you want us to do some formal tax planning for you to work out what is the best option for you in relation to what kind of business you're running, where your staff are, where you are living, and where your business is set up, and how's that going to affect you tax-wise? Are you going to have to structure things in a certain way to make sure that you don't trigger any permanent establishment issues? What can be done to lower your tax, but also be able to maintain business operations in an easy way? You don't want to have some kind of fancy corporate structure that is just too hard to operate, that you have to fill out, multiple forms anytime you want to have something done at the bank. You want to be able to it's a bit of a balancing act, I guess. Yes, you do want to have a low tax rate if that's what's important to you, but you need to be able to run your business. That's the most important thing. If you can't run your business effectively, you're not making money anyway, and you don't want to be wasting your time on admin and filling out all these forms and getting on the phone to your accountant and doing whatever you have to do, jumping through all these hoops just to be able to run a fancy corporate structure. The other thing as well is there's no point going for a low tax country if running the business structure in that country is going to cost more than the tax you are going to pay anyway. Because no matter where you incorporate, there is going to be a cost associated with that, and potentially, not always the case, but with some offshore jurisdictions, there can be a higher cost attached with that, a fixed cost, you could call it, that you'd have to factor in, working out whether at the end of the day you are still better off than you were before. So hopefully this video has given you an idea of some of the things that you should be thinking about when giving consideration to where is the best place for you to incorporate. We'll leave it there, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you later.